And hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Beach Talk Radio for Monday night. It is the night before Election Day, big day tomorrow nationally, and of course, a lot of races going on locally. And what we wanted to do tonight was give you one more chance to hear from candidate running for Lee County School Board District number 3. Chris Patricca is now the representative, and she's running again for that position. And we wanted to bring Chris on and talk to her for about 30 minutes, see if you had any questions that you wanted to throw at her. District 3 includes Fort Myers Beach, and so we want to make sure that you had an opportunity one more time with all these different races going on tomorrow to hear from Chris. So, Chris, the first question I have for you is to kind of give us an idea how you think the race is going.
Well, I can tell you I've worked really, really, really hard for the past 13 days, ending on Saturday. I was at the polls all day, every day. Beginning at 8:30 in the morning, so I could catch those voters who were lined up early to be the first to vote each day. And then I went home at night and I labeled mailers so that voters could get some information about me as they head to the polls on Tuesday. I have relied on my positive record of success for the past 4 years and my positive vision for the future over the next 4 years. And I've tried to just really run a clean, upbeat campaign. And before we get started, Ed, I want to thank you for the show you did yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, it was Saturday with Fort Myers Beach Elementary.
Right.
I know that you might be a little mask averse, but you advertised the mask fundraiser incredibly well. And as you know, Fort Myers Beach Elementary is really a jewel, and it's really, really important to the Fort Myers Beach community. So I appreciate you giving them that time on your show.
Yeah, thank you. They're great people, and hopefully we helped them sell some masks or order some masks on Saturday. There was a lot of fun. So what is the feedback that you've been getting from the voters that are going out to the polls on, how they think you did and what they're looking for from a school board candidate?
Well, I get a lot of smiles and a lot of waves and a lot of thumbs up. I've had some people do some incredibly nice things for me. There was one woman who came to the polls every day because she was trying to wait for the line to be shorter. And so she saw me there every day, and she finally voted one day and came by and asked if she could relieve me and hold my sign for an hour so that I could go home and get a cold drink. I mean, I had never met her before, but she was so happy that I was running again and happy with the job that I had done over the last 4 years. It's kindnesses like that occur at the polls when you're meeting voters that really give you the energy you need to get through to the end of it.
So let's talk about the sales tax, because the sales tax seems like it's something that the opposition has really been pounding on. Take the voters through the sales tax, how it came about, why you supported it, and how it's become such a polarizing issue. Taxes always are, raising taxes always are. So how did we get to where we are?
Well, raising taxes are is, I should say, a very difficult thing to do in a place like Southwest Florida, in a place like Lee County. That is, as you know, very, very conservative. And, I'll tell you a personal story. I moved my family 1,400 miles away from upstate New York a little over 8 years ago because my property taxes were increasing, my property value was decreasing, and public schools were failing my children. I lived in a county that was about 25% red, and every election cycle, I knew that my vote didn't matter because I was so outnumbered. And my husband and I looked at each other one day and we said, why don't we go to where we really want to be? I had been reading the news press in Fort Myers for years before we decided to move, and I could tell by the way stories were covered and by the quotes from the elected officials down here that it was a very conservative area. Every time I spent a penny in New York, I felt like I was contributing to a broken system of government. Government was too big, it was too expensive, and it wasn't accomplishing its goals. So I moved down here, and I really do believe I live in paradise. And given the reasons why I left, it's very ironic that I did support the half penny sales tax. But I'll tell you what, Ed, ideology is one thing, but ideology without facts can be dangerous. And so while I am very much averse to taxation, I had to look at the facts that were presented to me when I joined the school board. And those facts proved that the school district had suffered a $183 million per year decrease in capital funding. I sent you a graph earlier. Could you bring that up on the screen so I can show it to people who might be watching?
I can.
Please and thank you. So this graph right here is a really good indication of the financial situation that the district was in. And you know, Ed, it would have been easy for me to bury my head in the sand and do the politically easy thing, which would have been continue to borrow money. But I wanted to do what was right for the community. I wanted to do what was right for our students and for our staff. So you can see on the left-hand side of the graph, that's the year 2006, 2007. We had close to $350 million in capital funding that year. The green represents local property tax. That local property tax rate is set by the state. The school board does not set that rate. The state sets that rate. The orange on the graph is PICO dollars, public education capital outlay, and the red is impact fees. So you can see that after 06, 07, our funding went way, way down. Again, to the tune of $183 million per year decrease in capital funding. Now, at the same time, Ed, that white line represents student growth during the same period of time. That the relationship between student growth and capital funding was simply unsustainable. It was impossible for us to build the schools we needed to build to meet the demand of an exploding student population while maintaining the schools that we already had. I mean, we have 800 buildings, more than 13 million square feet of infrastructure to maintain each year. And given the decrease in funding, it was simply impossible for us to do that. So you can take that down if you want. But I will tell you, Ed, I went out to a lot of different groups. Any group with 2 or more people, I went out to that group and I talked to them about the need for the half-penny sales tax. And frequently when I showed that graph, there were audible gasps in the audience. Mm-hmm. Because people really don't understand the intricacies or the details associated with education funding in the state of Florida. And they also don't understand that the school board does not set the millage rate. Unlike the Village of Estero Council or the Fort Myers Beach Council or Bonita Springs Council or the county commissioners, we as a school board do not set our own millage rate. Those municipal and county governments do set their own millage rate. So they get together every year at a budget conference or a budget workshop, and they forecast what their needs are going to be over the next year, taking into account whatever special projects that the taxpayers who elected them might want. And they're able to set their millage rate at a place that allows them to bring in the revenue they need to meet their constituents' needs. The school district, on the other hand, does it. We don't have that freedom. The state tells us every year what the millage rate is. And if you all were to take some time and go back and look at your tax records, you would see that from beginning in 2013, our millage rate for schools it says, I'm looking at my tax bill right now, it says public school by state law, your millage rate went down every single year from 2013 through 2019. Again, not something that we control. We forecast what we're going to need each year during our budget workshops. And then we have to figure out how we're going to provide quality education to close to 96,000 students with whatever money it is the state decides they're going to give us that year. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how much extra money was brought in from the sales tax increase?
We're estimating, the shutdown from COVID obviously decreased the revenue that we're expecting to bring in. But we're at about, I'd say, 700 million on the year for the full year that we've been collecting the money. And I'm glad you bring that up because transparency in government, transparency in budgeting is so important. And if you go onto the district's website and search for a thing called Change for Change, you will see real-time dollars that have come in from the half-penny sales tax. What revenue has come in and what revenue has been spent. And you can drill down to individual schools to see what projects that revenue was spent on at each individual school. And the last thing I'll tell you about transparency and oversight is we did create an independent sales surtax oversight committee. And that committee is populated by people in the county, in the community, who are very, very well respected. They bring automatic credibility to that committee because of the tremendous success they've had either in business or as community leaders. And they meet quarterly, and each meeting they do two things. They look back at the expenses, at the expenses over the past quarter, and they determine whether those expenses were made in accordance with the promises we made to taxpayers when the referendum passed. And they make a motion to either approve those expenses or not. And they also look prospectively over the expenses that are coming up over the next quarter to determine whether those upcoming expenses are in accordance with the promises made to taxpayers on the referendum. And every single meeting, that committee has approved both the expenses that have taken place and the expenses that are coming up over the next quarter.
What kind of situation would the school district be in if that money wasn't there, or if that sales tax wasn't increased? How much worse off would it be? First of all, the budget is huge to begin with. I mean, it's a monster number there. Could the money have been gotten somewhere else? Could it have been shifted somewhere else to meet whatever it is that you're using this money for?
Well, the district has two different pots of money, and state statutes are very, very strict about how that money can be spent. So we have a capital pot of money and we have an operating pot of money. So when you think capital, think about infrastructure, think about buildings, think about maintenance, think about HVAC systems, think about mold remediation, think about building schools. And then on the other side of the house, on the operating side, that's the running of the schools, the day-to-day running of schools, the paying of staff salaries. It's also, paying the gas bill for our buses. It's paying the electric bill for our schools. So we have two different pots of money. And on the capital side, we would have been in dire straits. I mean, we were reaching the point where we were in dire straits anyways, because we were having to borrow to build new schools. Right now, with the half-penny sales tax, we are scheduled to build 7 new schools, which includes 2 complete rebuilds on schools that are just in very, very bad condition. In addition, with that half-penny sales tax revenue, we have been able to upgrade several HVAC systems. Several roofs have been repaired or replaced. And as I think about the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, I look at other counties across the state who have aging infrastructure, to include aging or breaking HVAC systems, air conditioning systems in their buildings, and they're not able to maintain the air quality that we are able to maintain here in Lee County because we had the half-penny sales tax revenue to upgrade our HVAC systems. But the other thing, I think the most direct impact during the pandemic has been technology. There are about 14,000 school districts across the entire country. And 1% of those school districts, or 140 of those 14,000, were able to bridge the digital divide during the fourth quarter shutdown. And thanks to the half-penny sales tax, Lee County was amongst the 1% of school districts across the nation that bridged the digital divide. What does that mean? That means that we had the revenue necessary to buy devices or Chromebooks for our students and staff that needed them. And we also had the revenue to purchase hotspots for students and staff that did not have access to the internet in their homes. So while the fourth quarter, I think you and I have discussed this before, the fourth quarter, the quality of education during the fourth quarter was not stellar. It wasn't stellar anywhere. We were at least able to connect with almost every single one of our students. And again, it was the half-penny sales tax that put us in a position to be able to do that. And the other thing, Ed, that I want people to understand is that Chris Patricca, did not pass a half-penny sales tax.
The residents did, right?
Correct. It was the voters that decided by a majority that this was what they wanted to do for their kids, they wanted to do for the staff, and they wanted to do for themselves, frankly, because while the half-penny sales tax provides students and staff with appropriate, safe learning environments, it also increases the quality of education, which has a tremendous positive impact on the quality of life in Lee County. You know, we have to remember that our students are the future school board members and the future county commissioners and the future councilmen and women and the future members of the state house, who will be making these decisions for us someday. They're also the people who will drive the ambulance. You know, should we have a medical emergency? They're the people who will be administering anesthesia when we have to go in for surgery. We want our students to have quality education and quality learning environments.
How do you respond to the criticism that the school district or the school board is corrupt?
I think that's laughable. I mean, I have 4 children in our schools. I have absolutely no motivation whatsoever to go out to the public and pretend that things are great when they're not. You know, my children's education, next to their health, their education is the most important thing in my life. I'm incredibly proud of the education that they're getting. And, you know, when my friends across the country, especially those in the Northeast, see the programs that we're able to offer to our kids on a very, very, very tight budget, they're really impressed and they're jealous. I mean, you know, the area from which I hailed, they don't have ACE Cambridge programs. They don't have international baccalaureate programs. They don't have Florida Gulf Coast University collegiate programs. They don't have centers for the arts. Every single zone in Lee County offers tremendous, rigorous academic programs. And every zone also offers tremendous trade educational opportunities, career and technical educational opportunities for our kids. So, you know, I believe, Ed, that the accusation that we're corrupt or that we're somehow misappropriating or misusing money it's campaign fodder. You know, you need to get the public riled up if you're going to unseat an incumbent. And I believe that that's a lot of what you're seeing.
Right. And I don't want these people that are commenting on here to get away with this this money missing thing. So what is I mean, how do you where do they get this information that there's millions of dollars missing? I mean, what is
absolutely no idea. I mean, we are audited frequently by the state. And, you know, you and I think have talked about not the last audit, the 2017 audit. And one of the findings on that audit was that the school district had misused $13 million in impact fees. We pushed back and we said, no, we have used those impact fees correctly. We cited the law. And ultimately, the state said, you're right, you did spend that money correctly. Now, what the public doesn't understand is that we were one of at least a dozen school districts across the state that had that same finding on their audit that year. I mean, the way these audits work is they're looking for specific things in school districts across the state each year. So the ad valorem tax finding, all but 1.2 million of that finding was determined by the state to be an appropriate expenditure. And 1.2 million was left. And the state came to us and they said, and again, Ed, this same exact finding was on audits for school districts across the state. It wasn't just Lee County. It was districts across the state. Ultimately, they came to us and they said, you know what? You spent that money out of capital. It should have come out of your operating budget. So simply move the money from capital to operating. There was no finding of misusing money, misappropriating money. There was no finding of waste, fraud, or abuse. I mean, that money was used for things like mold remediation so that we can keep our students and our staff safe. I think everybody can agree we shouldn't have mold in our schools because that's not a healthy environment.
Right. So what other things do you want people to know that you're going to, well, before we get to that, let's talk about the superintendent. Doing a good job, or what's your thought on how the superintendent is doing?
I believe the superintendent is doing a good job. If you look at the metrics that the school board has put in place to measure his performance, each and every year he moves the district forward. We have had, each year I've been on the school board, we have had the highest graduation rate year after year after year. Every single year the graduation rate increases. Every single year the achievement gaps decrease. We started with 23 DA schools. Those are schools that are graded a D or an F by the state of Florida. And now we're at zero DA schools is an incredible accomplishment, especially for a district of our size. If you look at other mega districts across the state, Miami-Dade, for example, has 7. I want to say Hillsborough has in the neighborhood of 33 or 34 DA schools. Just to our south, Collier County, who's a sister district, although not a mega district, still one that we like to compare ourselves to. I believe they have 3. The only district that I looked up that's relevant to us that has none is Charlotte County to our north, our sister district to the north. So, the superintendent has increased the number of educational opportunities in the trades for our kids. And these are things the board has directed him to do. The school board's job is to tell the superintendent what to do. The superintendent determines how to do it. And then we assess whether he's done the job that we asked him to do or not at the end of each year. And again, this has nothing to do with how I feel about the superintendent. There's no crying in baseball. My feelings don't matter. It's the data that I look at to determine the job that he has done.
Before I get to the next question, I just want to answer some of these idiots that are commenting in the box here, like this Kelly woman. I think it's a woman. It could be a guy. There's a couple of faces in the picture that this is a paid interview. This is not a paid interview. There was no money exchange. I just thought it was important to have another conversation with Chris because, yes, we support Chris. We want her to win. And so that's the first question I wanted to answer. And the other one was about the debate that didn't happen. Yeah, we invited Jacqueline to a debate at Cantina 109. I don't know how many weeks ago it was. And she agreed to it. She agreed to it several times, and then at the last minute, she backed out. After she got some free publicity from us, she backed out at the last minute. So that's what I was talking about in my earlier post. So as soon as she saw what the ground rules were going to be for that debate, she said she wasn't going to do it. I think that's what it was. She never told us why. So it's my show. I can call you whatever I want to call you. You don't have to watch and you don't have to listen. So Chris, go ahead if you want to jump in.
Yeah,
there.
well, I was going to say it's interesting that I haven't been given. I mean, you did give me the opportunity, but my opponent did not participate in the debate because you said people are saying that money is missing from the school district. Well, if my opponent would come on camera and have that conversation with me, I would be able to push back at that and ask for proof. There is absolutely no proof that is occurring at the school district of Lee County. And I think that that's part of the reason why the debate didn't occur. Because again, you want to rile voters up. You want to make them feel like there's a crisis and there's a need for a change. And once it's proven that the fabricated crisis, in fact, does not exist, then your entire platform disappears.
So moving forward, if you do win tomorrow or whenever they count all these votes, who knows how long that's going to take. I imagine the local votes would be able to be counted easier, but who knows? What is it that you want to get accomplished over the next 4 years that you can tell people about?
Well, the thing I'm probably most excited about is continuing to increase educational opportunities in the trades for our students. And the reason why I'm most excited about that is because I believe that we have like the alignment of the stars necessary to really make that happen in a big way. We have state support for it and we have federal support for it. So when your local, state, and federal are all on the same page, it's going to happen. So that's going to be really exciting for our kids. The other thing is seizing this opportunity. I have a really hard time looking at any situation as like a glass half empty. I always look at things as glass half full. I always see the positive in a situation. And as difficult as this pandemic has been on our entire community, our entire country, I believe that we can seize this opportunity to find some new best practices through the use of technology to genuinely improve education and really revolutionize the way we deliver instruction to our students. And that's going to take some work. And it also, I believe, takes some experience. It takes a long time to become a good school board member. The statutory framework surrounding education in the state of Florida is incredibly, incredibly complicated. And my law degree obviously gives me a leg up in being able to understand how these statutes sort of interact with each other and impact what happens in our schools every day. But it also gives me the ability to see what changes we need in those statutes to make education even better for our kids. So those are the two of the things I'm really excited about. I also want to continue to increase student and community involvement and maintain the transparency and accountability that we've had in our budget.
What is the biggest problem facing the Lee County School District that you want to see fixed?
The biggest problem I want to see fixed is probably student assignment. I think we've talked about this a little bit before on your show as well. And we're well on our way to fixing that problem in our elementary schools. We are creating what's called proximity schools for elementary schools, which will significantly decrease the number of choices parents have at the elementary level. I would like to see us move to proximity schools for middle schools. I'm one of 7 board members, and should I be reelected, I will still only be one of 7 board members. But the sense I'm getting from my colleagues on the board is that they too would like to see a move toward proximity schools for middle schools. High schools, on the other hand, I think school choice continues to be very important because, as I mentioned earlier, our high schools are centers of excellence. You know, I can choose South Fort Myers High School and get certification in welding, for example, or I can go to Bonita Springs High School and enter into the FGCU Collegiate Academy. The different programs available at the different high schools are far more efficient and really allow kids to choose the school that best fits their needs and their interests.
Okay, so let the voters know. We're running out of time here. Let the voters know why they should vote for you tomorrow.
Well, I think you should vote for me because I do think I've done a good job over the past 4 years. I did not make the politically easy decision when it came to deciding whether to put that half-penny sales tax on the ballot for voters. I made the very difficult political decision, understanding that it could cost me re-election, because I believe, and I believe the community believes, it was the right thing to do for children. So you're gonna get the truth from me, which is not always easy to hear. And I think that that's part of what you're seeing here in terms of pushback. The fact that we needed a half-penny sales tax in Lee County does not reflect well on the funding coming in from the state for public education. And then there's 2 other things I'd like voters to really think about. You know, I am the only person on the school board, Ed, that has children attending our schools every day. And I am the only person in this race that has children attending our schools. And I do believe that a parent's perspective on that school board is necessary. You know, I understand when parents were calling me in droves, when we were talking about our reopening plans at the beginning of the school year, I understood their fear. I understood their trepidation. I understood why they were nervous, and I understood the questions that they were asking, because I too had to decide whether I was going to send my 4 children back to school. And the other thing is, again, you know, I do have a law degree, which gives me an ability to really bring a high degree of business acumen to the board table. And when I'm in the schools and I'm with the kids and I'm with the teachers, you know, I'm loving on those kids and I am loving all of the programs that are going on in those schools. But when I'm at the dais and I'm making decisions on how to spend a nearly $2 billion budget, it's all business. And I really believe my law degree gives me the ability to understand the issues we face on a very deep level and serve the community at a high level. All
right, Chris, well, where will you be tomorrow?
I will be at the polls. I will be there for at least 12 hours. I will likely get to them a little bit early so I can get those who want to wave. But I'll be at various polls throughout the day.
All right. Well, good luck tomorrow. We wish you the best, and you know, we hope you win tomorrow. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate this time, Ed. Please say hi to Kim, and
all right.
I'll see you on Saturday on Beach Talk Radio.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris. Good luck tomorrow, and we appreciate you coming on tonight. All right, everybody. That's Chris Patricca running for District 3 for the school board, and get out and vote tomorrow. That's the most important thing, everybody, to get out and vote, no matter what race you're running for. Get out to the polls. They open up at 7 o'clock. Thanks a lot to Chris for coming on, and we will see you again Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Peach Time out.